Welcome to Friday night's video in our Master Series. This is the 133rd video in our Master Series and the 7th video in our Mastering phase. So I hope I made that last video as simple as possible, the concept of what you're trying to do. Those are the biggest fine points that you really need to take into consideration to do a good job when you're mastering, making masters a master wave file, making master MP3s, master VOG Orbis, master lower bit depth and sample rate master files, or whatever you're working on to get good master files for distribution. Now, besides that, once you've done this, you really want to take those masters and you want to check them against reference tracks of the same sample rate, bit depth, and or there are other MP3s that are reference tracks. If you're mastering MP3s, check it against MP3 reference tracks, to hear differences. If you're mastering for some other format, get reference tracks of the same format to check it against. And check it in your monitors, your headphones, your home stereo, your computer speakers, your earbuds, your car, all over the place. Just go check it. That is a work in progress also, but a very good idea for you to check your work. Just be careful. You don't want to get too wrapped up in that too much, but it'll give you an idea if you have any serious issues happening. Now, as far as doing like an album or something that, we were just trying to master some singles like that. Now, if you're getting into other mastering, you're going to get into, if you've get into your mastering suite and you get in there and you've got, 2 or 3 songs going around there, or 5 or 10 songs that, you should have, your album, the information for each one of the songs on there correctly with all the needed information put on there. Like this song, this one here is going to have separate, whatever work I'm got, we've talked about. Put on this one. This would be the master wave file on here, but we're going to format it to like MP3 or something. So we've got all those, processors on there to do it. And on this file here, it'll be different processors. And then make sure you've got a limiter on the master, to whatever the output should be for wherever you're sending the product, because that can be different so that it can, can pass whatever specifications that were set when they wanted you to master something. So basically, you're dealing with sequence of the tracks, track order, the silence between the songs, how much silence you're going to put between the songs. It's not a big deal, but it's something you need to think about so that there's not too much silence or it's not too quick and things like that. And track order, what songs are coming first and things like that. Ensuring the songs that are somewhere along the same level, so you don't have huge drops or rises between songs, wherever the loudest parts of each one of those songs are, things like that, fade outs and, auto fades on the beginning and end of each one of those tracks. Really getting into, the distribution requirements, where you're distributing to and what the requirements are for where it's going or where it's being streamed or wherever, whether it's going, it doesn't really matter. Your ISRC codes, EAN, UPC codes, and things like that, and to make sure you've met the distributor's requirements, for iTunes, CD Baby, Google Play, the producer or the record label or whatever they're asking for. Does that make sense? And, other things like, CD images and DDPs and things like that, for glass mastering or whatever, that you're going to want to do a little bit of reading about that. If you're going to get that deep into the mastering and become a serious mastering engineer, those concepts aren't that difficult to understand and get into. You just got to meet their requirements when you do them. So you want to do a little bit of reading about them. I'm not going to make a whole series on getting too much into them because those are basically getting things ready for somebody else to deal with distribution that you want to get together with the producer, the record label, or the band, and whoever you're sending them to make sure that you've met all the requirements so that they can do their job to make a distribution package or make a bunch of distribution, packages or whatever they're doing, a million CDs or whatever. Does that make sense? And you always really want to make sure that you recheck everything. Recheck everything that you've checked, the requirements of whoever's having you do it or wherever you're trying to send it, and all those things. You're checking the sound of it, make sure everything's coming out right, and 3 steps forward, 1 step back, and really get into that. And in the next video, we are going to start talking about making a distribution package, so that will come up some also. But that's not a real difficult thing. You need to do some research and you make sure that you've met the requirements of wherever your master is going. You've got a master MP3 that they've wanted you to make a master MP3 for. What exactly, how do they need it? Any requirements, so that it's not clipping, so that it's meeting any requirements they might have, and so that they get what they need. Does that make sense? Or whatever the destination requires. So that's a pretty simple concept, and that's going to just take a little bit of research on your part and a little bit of investigation. But the basic concept we've already dealt with. You know, for the most part, we're under clipping, at least under clipping, even if it's, minus 0.1. If it's going somewhere and it's going to, say, iTunes or something, and they want it minus 2 or minus 3 or wherever the heck it's going, to Asia or Afghanistan, I don't know, that, wherever it's going, you're going to have to meet the requirements of whatever is normal for them to work with for wherever the package or the master is going to be distributed or streamed. So you need to check into that. And other than that, you're pretty much good to go. The dark art of mastering isn't really that much of a dark art. It very much is you creating a good master wave file with as high as bit depth and sample rate as possible to have a master file, and then using that file the way we talked about to come up with other master files, a master MP3, a master wave file that's that's a smaller bit rate or sample rate and bit depth or whatever, and those are all master files that you've created from that original master file that is the master for everything, and those are masters for distribution. And that those should all be radio ready. You should be able to send it to your producer, to the radio, to the label, to the band, to whoever, and it should be able to be stuck on the radio or streamed just the way that it is. So it's a pretty simple concept. So the dark art of mastering isn't really all that complicated, but just keep in mind that mastering engineers a lot of times do one thing. They are master audio engineers, and a lot of them have been doing it for years, and they're really understand what they're supposed to do. They really are familiar with distribution packages, requirements, where things are going, what do they need to do to make it okay to be streaming here or there or wherever. And they don't have to fuss with it as much. But the basic concept of making the masters is pretty simple. It just takes work. The more you practice it and the more experience you get and the better you get at doing it, the better your masters will come out. So, it's just a work in progress. But basically, in that process, that in a short period of time, that you should be able to come out with some pretty good masters. So in whatever format that you're trying to distribute in or send to labels or to bands or wherever, it's a pretty simple process. That just don't be in a hurry. Take your time, go through all the steps that I've talked about in this mastering phase, and do a really good job. Trust your ears, trust your monitors, trust your headphones, trust your analysis tools, and really scope out what's going on to come out with as good a product and a master for each format that you're distributing in as possible. And it's pretty much that simple. So peace, help, love. I certainly hope you enjoyed the Master Series so far, and I'll see you in the next video. We're getting ready to make a distribution package to send to the band, to the record label, to China, or wherever the heck you're going with that product, so that you have a comprehensive package ready for distribution that is professional and well put together. Peace, hope, love. I certainly hope you enjoyed this mastering phase, and I will see you in the next video.